Club. See, we had the bowling club, we had the horse club, we had a whole lot of clubs that you could get involved with. So I signed up for about 9 clubs that year because I had some time on my hands, my grades were great, and I decided that, hey, this will be fun. But that wasn't it. What I wanted to accomplish, what I thought would just kind of put me over the top, was that I wanted to be president of every single club that I joined. That was the thing. You know, sometimes, especially young people, even the older folks in here, you know, a lot of times when you come across something that you like, I mean, you go for it, right? I mean, you say, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to go for it. That's what I did. I signed up for 9 clubs, and these clubs would meet after school. I went home and told my parents, Mom, Dad, this is what I did. I signed up for these clubs, and they would say, you don't think it's going to be too much for you, do you? I said, no, I can handle it. I said, when I go to the clubs tomorrow, I'm going to run for president. And they said, well, which club? Oh, all of them. So my parents scratched their heads a little bit. And I went back to school and the next day, and the clubs would meet on different days after school. So I'd go into the classroom that the clubs were held, and I say, hi, my name's Thurl Bailey. Welcome to the Broadcasting Club. This is a cool club, and you know, it's going to be a great one. But listen, tomorrow we're going to have elections, and I really believe that I can be a good president for you. I believe this can be the best club in the school. Them not knowing that I had joined like 8 more. So I did this in every club, and behold, lo and behold, I became president of 9 clubs in the school in the 7th grade. Now, you know, at that time, that was cool. I mean, people would look at that and say, wow, this guy's the president of 9 clubs. And that would take the attention off of my height. You know, people would always look at that, oh, do you play basketball? And man, you're tall and lanky and, you know, you're a freak or whatever. So I joined these clubs and I became president, and I was just so ecstatic about that because this is something I wanted to accomplish. And if I had become president of 6 of them, I mean, maybe it wouldn't have been so nice for me, but this is what I wanted to do. You know, I reached for this goal, and I grasped it, and it happened for me. And to bring one thing to mind, I wasn't playing any sports at this time. I had never picked up a basketball. I'm 6 feet 4 inches tall. Every day I hear somebody ask me, do you play for the team? And I said, no, I wasn't interested in playing basketball. I wasn't interested in playing sports. One day, I was walking by the gym, and I had walked by the gym every day, several times a day. But one particular time I walked by the gym, and I saw this sign above the doors. And at one particular moment, I remember stopping and looking at that sign, and the sign said, basketball tryouts tomorrow after school. And I don't know at that time why it really interested me at that point, but I remember, you know, when we get an idea, that light bulb just goes off really bright. And I stood there and I looked at that sign. The first thing I thought, I can be captain of the team. I could be captain of the team. You see, I've got my 9 clubs. I can be captain. That was my train of thought at that time. Didn't know how to play, had never picked up a basketball before. We had a park down the street from where I grew up, but we weren't allowed to go down there because of the neighborhood, type of neighborhood it was. So I went home and told my parents, I said, Mom, Dad, I'm gonna be captain of the team. I said, what, did you make the team? No, tomorrow I'm going to go try out, but I'm going to be captain. So of course, parents, being parents, oh, you're going to do great, you know, good luck to you. Can you handle it? You sure? Got those 9 clubs, you know, you're president. I said, I think it'll be fun. So I went in after school the next day, had my shorts on, you know, well, back then, you know, the shorts came way up here. Now they're a little bit lower, but had my long legs and my tank top. I walked in the door, I pushed the door open, and as soon as I walked in, my confidence just grew. Because I looked on the court, and it kind of reminded me of my kindergarten class, because because everyone in there that was trying out for the team was just little. They were short. So my confidence grew, and I just knew I was going to make this team. I just knew it. I hadn't played a day in my life. I knew I was going to make it. So the coach comes up, and he gives us basketballs, and we stand in a line, and he says, okay, welcome to basketball tryouts, and what I want you to do first is I want you guys to just take a basketball, and I want you to dribble. I'm holding the basketball like this. I'm one hand. Okay, I see everybody dribbling with one hand, so I better dribble with one hand. And me wearing a size 14 at that time, I ended up chasing the ball out of bounds and grabbing it and coming back. And I saw the little fellas, they were dribbling through their legs and around the back and doing some really cool stuff. And the coach said, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go and make a layup. So this guy takes off. Young fellow on the end takes off, goes up, makes a layup, comes down. That was pretty. Next guy goes. I'm getting kind of nervous because I've never shot a layup before. And my turn comes, and I take the ball, and I run to the basket. Coach says, no, son, you have to dribble to the basket, okay? So I came back, and I started to dribble, and I went to the hoop, and went to lay it in, and I don't know where the ball went. It didn't go in, but I don't know where it went. And I realized at that point that that was the toughest thing I'd ever gone through in my entire young life. But I was still confident. I mean, I was a thinker, okay? You're 6'4", the guy who's trying out for your position, 5'3", you've got a better shot. So I went home and told my parents, you know, I did pretty good in tryouts. Was excited to go to school the next day. Ran off the bus, ran down the hall to that cut sheet that was on the wall, because if your name's on that thing, you're in. You're on the team. So I looked at that list, and I looked at it again, and I went down it one more time and realized that my name wasn't on it. Now, wait a minute. Hey, I'm the president of 9 clubs. They didn't cut me from the team, did they? I looked at the list again, and my name wasn't on it. I had been cut. They cut me from the team. Okay, I couldn't play. But my confidence at that point was just, I mean, I couldn't believe it, because that was the first time, really, I felt like I had failed at doing something. You know, I felt like a failure. And not really realizing it at that point that, you know, that I couldn't play. And I didn't really, all I wanted to do was be captain, first of all. But it hurt me so bad. It hurt me so bad that I had failed at doing that. And I was only in the 7th grade, but it still hurt. I felt like I had disappointed my parents. I mean, it was this whole big thing. And of course, time heals a lot of wounds, so I got over it. I got over it until the next year came around. I was in the 8th grade, and I was 6'8". I was 6'8" in the 8th grade. And I was in all my activities, and then some that year. Basketball season comes around again, and I decide I want to give it another shot. I'll try it again. I'm 6'8". You know, there's got to be some kind of record. I mean, I'm taller than the coach. I'm taller than all the teachers. So that's got to be a plus. So I try out for the team again, and I was a little bit better. I mean, I had a basketball at home and didn't have a hoop, but I had a basketball. And I went to practice, tried out, and it was still hard. But I came to school the next day, I looked at the list, I looked down the list, and my name wasn't there again. I'm 6'8". I'm 6'8" in the 8th grade. And they cut me again. Well, it was about the same routine. I mean, I was really hurt, maybe not as devastated as the year before, but it still hurt me. But I got over it. My 9th grade year came around. I was 6'10", in the 9th grade. And I had just been voted president of the student government of the school that year, plus all the other activities. And basketball season comes around again, and I, you know, this is the 3rd year of this. Do I really need this? I don't know. But I think it was something probably instilled in me by my parents about not giving up. I decided I was going to give it one more shot. It was my last year, so why not? So I went and I tried out, and I kind of worked on my game just because my dad and my brother were playing basketball, and they showed me some things. And so my coordination was starting to come together a little bit, and I went into practice and started to practice with all the other guys and thought I did pretty good. I could make layups now, and I had a knack for blocking shots. I just put my hands up and they'd shoot it into my hands, and I'd say, oh, wow. But the next day I came to school, I went down the hallway, very reluctant, and as I went down the hallway, I noticed that some of the other guys that were trying out, some of them were walking away with their heads down in disappointment. Others were just jumping up and high-fiving. And I was nervous. I walked over to the list, I looked at the list, and this particular year, they had typed the list up alphabetically. And I looked on that list, of course, my last name beginning with a B, be at the top. So I looked at the list. I didn't see my name up there. I went down to the bottom of the list, and my name was at the bottom, out of order, written in pencil of all things, in pencil. So the first thing I'm thinking, I'm looking at the guy, I'm like, okay, which one of you guys wrote my name on this piece of paper? But I had made it. I made the basketball team. After being cut for 2 years, I finally made it. And I was so excited. I knew I couldn't play. I knew I wouldn't play much. But being my last year of junior high school, I was voted co-captain of the team, which is all I wanted anyway. And it's amazing, too, because a lot of times when we accomplish something, other things happen from that. You know, we give it our all, and other things start to happen, other positive things. And I remember I started every game, and that's big time, when you can start every game in junior high school. I wasn't very good, but I started every game. I was the jump ball man. I was the jump ball man. And I would stand there at midcourt, referee would have the basketball, he'd get ready to come over and throw it up, and I'd always walk up on my opponent really close, you know, try to intimidate him. And I'd kind of look down on him. Hi, little fella, how you doing? A lot of people here tonight, huh? And I'd say, jump ball, don't even try it, man. And of course, the little fella would get real excited, and his mom and dad were sitting up there, and he'd start flexing. The referee would come over and throw the ball up, and he'd just take off. And I'd just stay, feet on the floor, and tip the ball to my teammate. I got every jump ball that year, and I was proud of that. As soon as we got the ball, my coach would stand up, call a timeout. I knew it was going to happen. Took me out for the rest of the game, every game. But you know what? I feel a need to tell that story, one, because it's my life, it's true. And two, I hope that in there somewhere, there's kind of a message, especially to young people, that there's so much out there for you goal-wise, as far as putting your all into something and maybe not making it at first. And I tell that story because it's an avenue I took as a youngster. And we all have those avenues that we take. We all have those roads that we take. And that is what what we're made of. I mean, we take a road, and maybe we know what's down that road, but maybe we don't. We go down, we don't like it, maybe we can go back and take another one. Maybe we know what's behind that, what's down that road, and it's not very good, but we take it anyway. But I remember that story. I remember my junior high school career. I remember going to high school and playing junior varsity because I wasn't good enough to play varsity. And I remember liking the sport. I remember deciding that I want to be good at this. I want to put my all into it. I want to be good at it, just like the clubs, just like the trombone or the tuba. So I dedicated myself to doing that. And I remember in high school, my last year of high school, my coach walking over to me with a letter that said, University of Maryland Basketball Office, Coach Lefty Drizel. It was really cool because the mail came to the school and students, I mean, that just doesn't happen. So I was so excited, I waited until I got home and opened it in front of my parents, and basically what it said was, we'd like for you to come play basketball at our school and we'll give you a 4-year scholarship, a free education. Well, I knew that it was hard for my parents. We struggled as a family financially sometimes. My parents did the best they could and worked odd jobs, scrubbing floors or whatever, to make ends meet. And I knew that this scholarship would just be a great asset, not just to me, but my family. I mean, going to college was just a dream, and this was an opportunity. And I knew that's where I was going, University of Maryland. I had my mom buy a frame and frame the letter. I put it on my wall. Before I go to sleep at night, I just look at that thing and just doze off and wake up in the morning and make sure it was still there on my wall, because that's where I was going. Until over the course of 3 or 4 months, I had to choose. And I had over 400 schools to choose from. So of course I ripped the one out of the frame and just threw it in the pile. And I look at that and I realize after making a choice out of all those schools and choosing North Carolina State and going there and having an opportunity to get a free education and play for a guy who I think was one of the greatest coaches that ever coached the game. His name was Jim Valvano. I remember meeting him my second year there. He came. I remember him telling us as a team, hi, I'm Jim Valvano, and I need to tell you about a dream I had. I had a dream that I'm going to win a national championship. He said, I'm going to win one. He says, and I don't know whether this is going to be the team. He said, but all of you can be a part of my dream. And you know, as players, first meeting this guy, we were kind of, okay, I know he makes this speech a lot, you know. But over the course of 2 or 3 years, we started to believe this. We weren't a very good team. My senior year at NC State, we weren't even ranked. And here we are playing in a national championship game with University of Houston, Akeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler. And we win a national championship. And I think about that so very often. And I think about hearing my name called. Thurl Bailey is selected first round, 7th pick to the Utah Jazz. What an amazing dream for any athlete to want to reach the highest level. The highest level. I look at all those things. I look at that whole picture. And I think about the things that I've done, the places I've gone, the roads I've taken. And trust me, not all of them were the right roads. But I look at all that, and I remember playing for the Jazz for 8 years, being traded to Minnesota, playing with Minnesota for 3 years, coming to a crossroad in my life after my contract ended in Minnesota, and wondering what I was going to do. Would I negotiate for more money with Minnesota or what? I had an offer to go over to Greece to play. go over to Europe. It was for pretty good money. And I decided to take that. Well, at this particular time, Sindi and I were married. And I decided that we needed to go to Europe. It's a better offer. You know, it would be a good experience. Well, we went to Greece. And I don't know if any of you have ever been to Greece. Maybe it's nice to visit, but living there for 8 months was just not a very good experience for us. The basketball was okay. I mean, it was different. It was an adjustment. But we didn't have a very good time there, whether it was the culture, whether it was the people we thought weren't as friendly as they should have been. But we came home after the season and we were very unhappy. And it's amazing too, because being in Greece, this is what we did. We didn't like Greece. So we blamed it on all of Europe. We did. We said, we're not coming back to Europe. We're not coming back. This was unbelievable. But I had a pretty good year. And I remember coming home that year and talking to my agent on the phone. And he said to me, this is the situation. The situation is that there are NBA teams that want to talk. Well, we have to wait a couple of months before we can start negotiations. And I feel very confident that you can play on this team or this team or this team. He named about 4 or 5 teams. And then he went on to say, but there's one more thing I need to bring up to you, just because it's here. He said, a team from Italy called me. And they want you to come and play help rebuild their team. And they think that you're the guy. And for those of you who don't know, you can only have 2 Americans on a team in Europe. And I was going to be that guy to help rebuild that team. Well, in talking to my agent, I kind of pulled the phone away like, is this man crazy? And I said, no, you didn't just say Italy to me, did you? I said, well, I have to mention it to you because there's an offer on the table. And he said, we basically know what the answer is, so, just think about it or whatever. Think about these other teams and call me tomorrow. He said, but if you decide on the long shot that you want to go to Italy, you have to know, first of all, that the money is not going to be anywhere near what you could make in the NBA when you come back. And also, that you have to leave in 2 days. I thought about firing him on the spot, but I didn't. I said, okay, well, we'll call you tomorrow. And the scary part wasn't that he brought that to my attention. The scary part was I had to go to her and tell her. I said, honey, well, this is the situation. The good news is, it's all good news, really, because there's 4 or 5 teams that want to talk, and there's this other thing he said about Italy that, there's an offer on the table, and she gave me this look like, no, you better not even think about it. So that night, we went to bed, and we had our young daughter, Brielle, by then. We went to bed, and as I lay there, my wife slept. There was something that was bugging me. I couldn't sleep. I could not sleep. I rolled, I tossed and turned, I read a little bit, and I got up and walked, and I could not get this Italy thing off my mind. I mean, it should have been a no-brainer. NBA basketball, pasta. I mean, what is... So that night or that early morning, had to be about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. It was killing me. I knew for some reason I had to go to Italy. How in the world was I going to tell my wife this? Well, I thought the best time was while she was asleep. So I kind of nudged her and I said, honey, are you awake? I said, we need to go to Italy. So she mumbled something and she went back to sleep. Oh, that was easy. So the next morning we got up and we started talking, and I think she said, I had a nightmare or something that you said you wanted to go to Italy. I said, honey, I really do think we need to go. She said, why? I said, I don't know. I don't know, but we do. I know I'm crazy, I know I am, but we need to go over. So I flew over the next day, and she was to come a month later, as she told you before. And all the while on that plane, I could not make a lot of sense of why I was on that plane on my way to Italy. I could not make any sense of it. But I knew I had to make the best of it. I made the decision, I made a commitment, so I was going to go through with it. So I landed, and I had a lot of time. We had training camp, but I had a lot of time to walk and think. It was a beautiful place. There was a big lake nearby. I would go and walk the lake and walk around the lake. And it was the first time in a long time in my life I really had a chance to reflect on my life, who I was, what I had gone through, all my accomplishments, my defeats. And it was so amazing that all those things were coming at me, and I was pondering them all. So I made the call to my wife. I had spoken to her several times, but the one call asking about the number for the mission. And after I got that number, I called the missionaries, and I remember expecting them to come over to my house, and I fixed dinner for them. And they came in, and we sat down, and we talked. Elder Fawson and Elder Cox were their names. But I remember opening the door, and I remember looking at these two young men. One was from the Ogden area, and he did most of the talking. The other one, I could tell, he was a greenie. You know, he was fresh on the field, and he was just as nervous could be. And I could feel a little tension. They were a little intimidated, maybe because they knew who I was, or I'm not sure. But they came in, and we went upstairs after we had eaten, and we started to talk about the church. And I told them that I was married to an LDS. My wife was raised in the LDS church. And we began to talk, and they were kind of impressed about how much I knew about the teachings of the church and things like that. And they asked me, well, you know, can we give you the discussions? I said, sure. And we started to talk, and they were just really surprised about how much I knew, the discussions and everything. And I had never had them, but I knew a lot. And they were pretty shocked and impressed. And I would call my wife and tell her what happened. And I remember her coming back and going back, her coming to Italy and then going back because of her grandmother. And one day, the missionaries came over, we started to talk again. And I said, you know what, guys? I've asked this question a lot. I mean, I have a few questions for you. And I asked them some questions, and they answered quite a few of them to my satisfaction. I said, I want to ask you a question. I said, you guys give me your opinion. What's the deal on African Americans and the priesthood? And I had asked this question several times before. I played with several guys on the Jazz who were LDS. Fred Roberts, Andy Toulson, those guys, Pace Mannion. And, you know, we had had conversations about the church, and I learned a lot from them, as well as my wife and other people that I had come across. And it seemed every time I met somebody, they'd want to give me a gift. And of course, that gift would be the Book of Mormon. So I had a big old stack of Book of Mormons in my house. And I remember them starting to answer my question in their way. And they just went on. They went on and on about the history of the church and about African Americans and about other minorities in the church. And I'm looking at my watch, like, wow, don't you guys need to leave here in a few minutes? Because I'm sure it was a great answer. And I'm sure it was a very satisfactory answer by them. But for some reason, it didn't really sink in me as far as what I needed to know. I'm not really sure they knew that because I just kind of nodded and agreed, okay, okay, understand that. And I remember one day they came back, my doorbell rang, and my door opened, and the missionaries were there. I knew they were coming. But behind